Please introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for City Council at large.
Yes, thank you. My name is Naomi Carney, and I am currently a City Councilman at large. I am looking to continue to work with the city and work with the residents of New Bedford to make this place a better place to live, work, and to raise your family. Some of the issues that I want to continue to look at is the issues that concern the city, which is the jobs. We need to still look at our development force. I do support tax initiatives, so that way we can bring businesses into the city. Right now we are facing a crisis with our fishing industry to keep those licenses here. As you know, we are the biggest fishing port in the United States, and we need to keep those licenses here in New Bedford. So I'm going to be an advocate, and I'm going to support every initiative we have to keep those licenses here, because those licenses hold thousands of jobs on the waterfront, not only with our fishing fleet, but also with all the other ancillary businesses, the ice houses, the fish auctions, the fish preparers. All these businesses need to stay in New Bedford. We have also a lot of crime that I'd like to look at. Right now we're seeing a big opioid addiction. It's our youth, it's everybody. It's touching everybody, it's everybody's neighborhoods. And I don't think it's right for people to look out their backyards and see somebody overdosing. It's wrong, and we need to face that. We need to work as a city council with our police department to make sure that they have the tools in which we need to combat this issue. And we need to look hard at it, because we're all faced with this right now, and it's reaching into every neighborhood, and it's going further and further. So those are some of the issues I want to confront on while I'm on the city council, and also the property tax. I know you don't worry about that yet, but you will when you buy a house and you move into New Bedford. But these are things that we need to look at so we can keep our city safe and our people in the city. So thank you very much. I am Naomi Carney. I do look for your vote on November 7th. Please consider voting for me as your city council at large, and let me continue doing the good work I'm doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carney. Mr. Grave.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the Youth Council for hosting this forum, and thank you to everyone watching at home or live stream, and thank you to everyone for coming out tonight for this forum. My name is Abram. It seemed like only yesterday I was up on this stage as a candidate running for one of the 5 seats as your councilor at large. Boy, time really flies. Fast forward 2 years, here we are in 2017, and I'm asking for your vote once again as a re-election bid for a Councilor Abram. Whether it's been constituent service, holding absentee property, landlords accountable, public safety, economic development, constituent service, or public safety in general, you know that with me, you've got a true advocate at 133 William Street, operating in a transparent form of government, the form of government that you all deserve, that we all deserve. Returning your phone calls, returning your emails, your texts. Your concerns are my concerns, always. And I'm pretty sure everyone in New Bedford knows that. Whenever you have an issue, you know you can always come to me, and I will be your voice in City Hall. I jumped right in as soon as I got into office, and I'm happy that I did so. I got right in, working with my colleagues, passed some legislation. We talked about filing motions and working together and crossing the aisle, if you will, working with everybody, each and every one of my colleagues, working with the mayor's office when appropriate, working in the private sector when appropriate, to get the job done for all of us in the city of New Bedford. That's what we deserve. We deserve a city council that's going to work for you, not work for him or herself. So I take pride in that, and I know many of you do as well. When you reach out to me, my level of service is second to none. Again, my name is Abram, and I'm first on the ballot in the November 7th re-election bid. I ask for your vote once again and your vote of confidence. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Abram. Ms. Coelho.
Good evening, everyone, and a special good evening to the Youth Council that is here this evening. I know how hard you work to put something like this together and how much courage it takes to do that. I know when I was part of the Youth Council, I know that you had concerns with your Bedford High School, the windows, the pool, replacing some area of the pool, the athletic complex there needed some work as well. I know you care about the parks, the things that mean a lot to you, and to grow safely in the city of New Bedford, keeping our streets clean, our streets safe, making sure the bus gets to you on time, and that the bus doesn't get caught up on a pothole on the way to school. So I know all these things are important to you. I have been a counselor now for 12 years. I'm up for re-election. Like yourselves, I grew up in the city of New Bedford. I went through the school system. I'm a product of the New Bedford school system. I know what you go through as a young adult in the city of New Bedford. We have been working hard to make sure that when you do graduate, that you go to college, but at the same time that you have a tendency to stay here, that you would want to raise your families here, because I understand that it's home for you as it's home for all of us. So I know that's really, really important to you. In addition to that, I am the chairperson of a public safety committee in neighborhoods. I came out of being an activist within the community. I work very, very hard to keep growing in the city of New Bedford. I'm a public servant whether I'm in office or not. I've done that all my life. I started pretty much at your age with working with my mom and creating my own business and then moving along from that. So I encourage all of you to keep going on with what you're doing, and thank you again to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Mr. Borrow.
Hi, my name is Dr. Burrow. I'm not originally from New Bedford. I was born and raised in Boise, Idaho. And in my lifetime, I've had the opportunity to live in a number of cities, including Portland, Oregon, London, Boston. But when it came time to put down roots, when it came time to settle down, have a home, buy a home, have a family, have kids, New Bedford was it. I started working at New Bedford Public Schools at the high school 3 years ago. A little more than that. I fell in love with this city. My wife fell in love with the city. And we decided this is where we wanted to spend our days. We may not have been born here, but this was where we wanted to spend the rest of our days, and where we wanted to be buried, and where we wanted our kids to grow up. And I think it doesn't really matter if you've been here 9 months, 9 years, 90 years. If you love a city, if you care about it, right? You want the best for it. You want good schools. You want safe streets, and you want an opportunity to forge a better life. Now, these are basic tenements. These are basic principles that we should all have as Americans. But here in New Bedford, as a teacher, I saw so many students feel desperately out of touch, desperately the idea that they could go on and have what I had was out of reach to them. When they looked at City Hall, they didn't see a place of hope and promise and optimism. They saw a place of graft and corruption. They saw a place that it just didn't matter, where who you knew mattered more than what you knew. And I just can't abide by that. We shouldn't be reading about backroom deals. We shouldn't be reading about public golf courses getting sold off and wake up one day and that's in the paper. We have, and this is not everyone here. We know who the counselors are that show up, that are online, that do their thing. Right? We know the active ones, and we know the ones that just sit back, collect a check, and really just kind of go through the motions. This city deserves better. I have seen the greatness in this city, and it deserves a lot better than it's being led with right now.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Mr. Jansen.
Yes, I'd like to take I'm Mike Jansen. I'm running for council at large because I have a lot of concerns over the direction that our city's headed. First of all, I'd like to thank the Mayor's Youth Council for giving me the opportunity to address my objectives, my goals, and my concerns to try to put New Bedford back on the right path again and make it the great city that it once was. 2 years ago, I stood here and told the listening audience and the media outlets that our taxes were going to go up, and they did. Much due to the out-of-control operating budget that our city has. Taxes went up 2 years in a row. This year's increase went from $344 million last year to $363 million this year. That's a $19 million increase. That is the largest increase in the history of our city. So what's going to happen? Our taxes, our rents, are going to go up. Your items at your favorite restaurant, they're going to go up. Your favorite store, whatever you buy at your favorite store, it's going to go up. It affects everybody. So this is one of the major reasons why I'm running. There are many other issues that confront our city. And when elected, I'll take the time, because I'm retired, so I'll have all the time in the world to spend on confronting the issues that confront us now and in the next 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jansen. Mr. Gomes?
Thank you very much, Ron. Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to first of all thank the Mayor's Youth Council for this opportunity to not only talk to the youth, but talk to the voters of the city of New Bedford and Whalen Museum. Thank you for the beautiful site that we're in this afternoon. It's most appropriate. Our city is a beautiful place. To the young people that are here today, I've been a counselor at large for 26 years. I continue to work in a capacity that is one that reaches out to all and brings all. The youth in this city are most important, and I've been a stand-up guy when it comes to the issue of how your classes work, how school works up there, whether you have books, whether you have crime in that school, whether you have people who just don't belong there. I've been a stand-up guy, and I've addressed the issue with nothing holding back, and I'll continue to do that because school should be a safe place, a place where you learn and you move into the future. It's not an issue that I haven't touched. 2 minutes is not enough time to tell you all the things that I've been involved in my 26 years, but I've been an integral part of this city, whether it comes to crime, economic development, any issue that wants to come forth. I challenge anyone to challenge my record as a city councilor, and let me tell you this, I am not one of those whatever was said earlier, one of those backroom deals. I don't play that, and I've never played that. The only thing I play is getting elected by the people of this city, going into that chamber, doing the job, taking my constituent calls, making things happen, whether it's a 91-year-old lady on Rockdale Avenue or a young person in the deep south end or the north end. That's how I do my work. I'll continue to do my work in that capacity. I thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. Look forward to the afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Ms. Morad?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Morad, and I currently have the honor of serving as one of the New Bedford City Councilors in the position of Councilor at Large. I want to thank the Mayor's Youth Council for putting this event on today, and for all of you coming out today to listen to us. I've been on the council for 12 years. I've been involved with the Mayor's Youth Council before you students were on as the advisory person from the council, and I appreciate what you do for the city of New Bedford, and I applaud you for being involved. I have been in this position working for the people of the city of New Bedford for a long time now. I enjoy this job very much. I relish the opportunity to use the position to help people and to be their voice in city government. Those of you that watch City Council and pay attention to the council, I think you'll know that I've stood up many times by myself for the voters of the city of New Bedford. I believe that I demonstrate the leadership and the experience that's needed on the City Council to move the city forward. I have a financial background, and it's what I've done for my entire career, and I use those skills on the City Council to look at complex items that are before us and to try to figure out whether, number one, they make any sense for you, the taxpayer, and whether they're items that will actually move the city forward. As I said, I've been doing this job for a while. I love the constituent piece. I love being in the community. I've volunteered for many social organizations, and by doing that, I've been out in the public listening to you. I understand what the issues are, and I empathize with them with you, and I work each day on the council to represent you. And I ask you for the opportunity to continue to do that for the next 2 years, to be your voice, to be the experienced leader representing you on the New Bedford City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morad. The next question will be coming from Andrew.
My question is for Mr. Abram. What do you believe is the most pressing issue currently facing New Bedford, and how should it be addressed?
Well, without a doubt, and I've said this time and time again, and I'll say it again today, in my opinion, public safety is the most important issue here in the city of New Bedford, and that's without a doubt. You look at what's happening on our streets, you look at what's happening in our communities. Anyone who knows me knows that I'll be the first one to cheerlead New Bedford and talk about all the great events and initiatives that we're putting on. And I'm going to continue to do that. But, however, we need to speak out. One homicide is one homicide too many. Never mind 8. We've had 8 this year. We need to find out what's happening in our streets. We need to figure out how this is happening and where the pipeline is, where this type of activity is being created, and how we can work with the police department, work with the schools, work with all of you in this room to figure out a solution to crack that pipeline in half. I commend people like Ken Rezendes and Joy Trudeau for the work they do and run the Bullitt Street Neighborhood Association. We need more community activism like that. I encourage everyone here in this room, I encourage anyone watching this program, whether on cable access or on New Bedford Guide, please, if you feel that you have a stake in this community and you care about New Bedford, form a neighborhood watch group. We'll help. If you feel you have questions about the safety of your neighborhood, please reach out. We will help. Again, we're the liaisons between the police department and you. We want to work for you, and that's what I've done since I've been in office, and I'm proud of that record. Whether it's an absentee landlord or a slum house on Clark Street or on North Front Street that has gang activity and drug activity and illicit activity coming and going, working with our health department to board up the property, whether it's working with our neighborhood watch groups to ensure public safety, whether it's working with all of you to make sure that you have a voice at City Hall. Public safety is very important. It's been paramount with me since day one, and today if you're going to ask me what the most important issue is facing this city, in my opinion, it is public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Abram. Ms. Guala.
There's no doubt about it that public safety is the #1 issue going on in New Bedford. Along with public safety, I'm going to add on the increase of taxes because the crime rate is bringing up our taxes. And the police department gets a big cut of our budget, our overall budget for the city of New Bedford. So there's a problem there. I'm going to tell you some of the things that we've done in the council in the past few years to help deter crime. One of them is a smart shooter, where it detects where the shots are fired. Another one is community policing. This has been something we've been trying to implement for many, many years, and we're still at it, and we're going to continue doing that, because we believe if you have open communications with your police officer, we should be able to get more information, and people have a tendency to feel secure when they know and see the police officers within the community that they live. Also, we're increasing more surveillance cameras throughout the city with a direct feed to the police stations. All of this sounds great, all of this works, but all of this requires money, and it requires time to be able to do these things. Another thing we did is increase lighting. Again, it's the tax money. So we have a lot of tools in place that we're going to keep using to make sure that neighborhood groups have what they need with their own communication, to make sure that everybody has the certain amount of knowledge that's shared within the neighborhoods, shared within the other agencies of the city of New Bedford to make our streets safer. I tie both of those issues together because if you can't really have one without the other, the crime needs to be solved and it requires money. And to me, that's an issue because I keep hammering away at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Mr. Borrow.
I'm going to echo what's been said up here already. Public safety. We just had a horrendous last 48 hours. We're up to our 8th murder in the city. We had 3 last year. Right? All those statistics that we hear about New Bedford being the safest, that crimes at a whatever low. Like, no, that was 2016. This is 2017. Right? We have 8 murders. We have a lot of crimes that aren't going reported because a lot of the people that would report these crimes are feeling pressured not to. They live in communities that have large immigration residents, and so they're not reporting these crimes. And this is all across the country. I would also say that we need to look at education, right? And I believe that education can be one of those silver bullets to address this crime issue. Whether it's getting more citizens involved with a citizen police academy that we're running right now in New Bedford, with the New Bedford Police Department. Right? They've got 9. Let's expand that. Let's grow that. Let's get 40 of them. Let's go to the high schools and get some cadets working at the police station. It's a win-win for everyone. You guys get paid minimum wage. The police, they don't have to pay someone however much money, right? So it's a great opportunity for you guys to get your feet in the door. I would also sit there and say that a lot of these crimes happen because these youth have no sense of hope, no optimism, no sense of I'm going somewhere with my life, right? And so we need to expand after-school programs. We need to expand summer programs. Let's keep those young people occupied. Let's keep them busy. Let's get them some skills. Let's get them some learn a trade. Because if we do that, we can get a huge bang for our buck. and we can start solving some of these crime issues. Now, I also just want to point out that it is interesting that the issue of taxes got brought up here, because you'll probably hear taxes throughout this debate. And 2 years ago, this panel talked about how everyone's going to cut taxes. And then 3 weeks after they got elected, they passed one of the largest tax rates in New Bedford's history. It was $1 for every $1,000 assessed value.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Mr. Jansen.
Okay. After speaking with the residents in the past 2 years since the last election, I hear from them, this is not from the media outlets, but from them, the number one issue they have is taxes. And it starts with an out-of-control city budget, like I said before, an out-of-control city budget with a $19 million increase coming up this year. Now, running a city on the backs of homeowners, renters, and small businesses is unfair and it's unsustainable. So what's our answer? We need a city council that'll go in front of every department head throughout the year and scrutinize their budget. Something that they do just a week before the budget comes in front of them. But they have to work with each department head in every department and find out where the fat is and make the appropriate cuts. Because if we don't cut our budgets in every department, we're going to go into receivership. Something that nobody wants to have happen. So that is the only way we can get out from under this $363 million operating budget. And there are a lot of other issues. Yes, public safety is a big issue. Health, our school department's budget, that's the number one driver to our budget increase. The school department, the number two the driver to our budget is our health care plan. These are two issues that I hope we speak about this evening and in other debates, because these are the issues that need to be confronted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jansen. Mr. Gomes.
Thank you very much. Well, public safety has been an avenue that I've taken since I've gotten on the city council. Because when I first came to the city council, we were running rapidly across the city. Many young people were just very small and not even born yet. But let me tell you about areas like Wells Square, Evergreen Park, South First Street, North Front Street. This councilor has stood up over and over and over. It's interesting that in this election, just weeks ago, a couple of months ago, when I was talking about what was happening in this city, it seemed like nobody was listening or somebody was in denial. People were listening, but certain people were in denial. The crime isn't up in the city. There's no need for us to have a public safety summit. There's no need for us to do this. Everything is running smooth. Everything is not running smooth. I know the streets better than anybody. I know the streets better than anybody because I travel these streets. This afternoon I met with the police union and I got commended on what I do and how I am out in the streets and how I look at every neighborhood across this city. And I'm glad to stand here and tell you that I received the endorsement from the New Bedford Police Department this afternoon. And the reason for that is because of my continuous work to address this issue. Yes, taxes are very important, but there's no sense or no dollar figure that you put on public safety. And I'll continue to stand up and I'll continue to say that. When we have trouble areas in there, we hit it with everything that we've got. I'm a zero tolerance guy. I've been here for a long time, talked the same stuff for a long time, addressed the same issues for a long time, with some resolution, but at times, no resolution. We've got the same problems in the same neighborhoods, and it bothers me. In lighting up the city, we've tried to do that. I'm the first one to try to light up North Front Street, areas of the South End, increasing the lighting in the areas. When I hear people speak of crime or be in denial of crime, they've got another thing coming, because I'm going to keep coming at it, because there is a problem in the city of New Bedford and we need to address it.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Ms. Moya.
Thank you. One thing I really like about the New Bedford City Council is each of us has our own discipline and each of us has our own expertise. So you've heard one of my colleagues just a minute ago speak about his passion as it relates to public safety. Public safety is a very important issue in the city of New Bedford, but issues are entwined. They're not just one issue. And an issue related to public safety is the finances of the city. Now, you also heard a comment a couple minutes ago about the type of budget, the type of tax increase that was passed after the last election. Tax increases are not when the money is spent. The money is spent when you set the budget. The tax setting is to pay the bill. That's when you realize how much money you have and what you need to assess to the taxpayers in the city of New Bedford to cover the difference. What needs to happen in the city of New Bedford is that there needs to be a dialogue about what the priorities are for the spending of the money. Are they public safety? Are they education? Are they health care and pension plans? What are the priorities of the city of New Bedford, and how are we going to spend our money? And you need an administration that works with the council and works the way the council works together to set the priorities and make the city move forward so that you can control the taxes, so that you can control the business, the tax increases. What's happening is that we're driving good people out of the city of New Bedford. As the tax rate goes up, people choose to move out of our community. In some cases, they rent their homes. In some cases, they sell their homes. And we're not replenishing the people, the good people of the city of New Bedford who are moving out with people that care about the community like we do. And that's the #1 problem that contributes to what's going on from the crime perspective as well. So as I said, they're all tied together, and that's what I relish about the council, people working together to try to move the city forward and try to overcome the obstacles that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moran. Ms. Carney.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Oh. Thank you.
Constituent service.
Thank you so much. What is my main issue in the city of New Bedford? My main issue is the quality of life for my constituents and the people in the city. Quality of life is what everything in the city is intertwined. Like my good counselor said, it's public safety, it's your streets, your roads. You need to be safe in your community. You need to be able to drive around your community and feel safe and not fall into potholes. You need to walk down the sidewalk without tripping and falling and breaking an ankle. All of these are intertwined. Right now we're facing a huge problem with the drugs in our community, the opioid addictions. I have never seen so many drug busts in the city of Bedford that I have seen in the last few months. And I want to commend the police department because they are on top of it. They're doing their job. They're trying to rid the streets of these drug dealers. And if you notice, these murders aren't kids. They're 42 years old. They're from out of town. They're infiltrating our cities. We need to do something and put our finger on the pulse. But I know that a lot of stuff's being done in our public safety with the police that we are not aware of because it's all undercover and they're trying to get them off the streets. So we need to focus on our streets, keep them safe. And one of the main things that I have to emphasize is getting involved in your community. There are community meetings throughout the entire city. You need to go online, find out where they are, and get involved because we need to be, all of us, our taxpayers and everybody in the city, needs to be the eyes and ears of the city. We need to know that outside your door, this kind of activities are happening. And we need to get together in these community meetings to make sure that we sit there and get together and combat it together. Because that is the issue right now. Too many people are not getting involved in the city, and we can't get this done until we all get together as a group and combat it as a group. And that's the way we're going to bring our quality of life back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carney. The next question comes from Anna.
My question is for Ms. Koala. What will you do to keep New Bedford clean and welcoming to residents and tourists alike?
Well, I think that's a wonderful question because, as you notice, there's a lot of beautification projects going out through the entire city of New Bedford. We have more murals than ever before. We need to promote the 2 harbor walks now that we have. They are probably the rising star right now of the city of New Bedford. And I really believe that when people realize that it's actually here and built and ready, we're going to get a lot of people coming in just to tour that. I also believe that I like to see banners throughout the city. We have a lot of Christmas banners that will go up and Christmas decorations. We have Christmas decorating contests that the businesses put together, and that brings in quite a lot of people. But also, I think a very exciting part is the AHA nights. We support that on the council. The 50s night also brings in a lot of people. And then there's the festivities within neighborhoods from our new immigrants that are starting to come in. And I always talk about that in the council as well, that we need to promote their festivities that are held within the city. And it's very new, it's very cultural, and people like to come in and see that. And one of the biggest draws going in right now to the city of New Bedford is a waterfront. I mean, we got a fast ferry now. It says you can go to Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, it's all here. So I'd like to, we have a hotel now on the waterfront. So I'd like to keep these people a little longer here when they actually come to the Fast Ferry. I want them to come in and enjoy our various neighborhoods. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Mr. Morrow.
So, on the issue of beautification, we all want a clean city, we all want parks, we all want trees and everything, and I think that's important, right? People want to live in a city that have parks and trees and that seem clean. But that's a superficial level, right? If you drive down Union Street, you get one perspective of New Bedford. If you drive down, Ashley Boulevard, there's another one, right? And so I think we can plant trees, we can put up banners, we can, promote AHA Night and these other festivities around the city, but that's only going to go skin deep, right? I think when we start getting outside of these more kind of public areas, right, we start going into the neighborhoods, right? We see absentee landlords. We see houses that are rotting and are derelict, right? There's 3 landlords that control more than 100 properties in this city. And a lot of the crime that we have in this city comes from those landlords, right? They knowingly rent out to drug dealers. They knowingly rent out to criminals, right? So if we want to get serious about beautifying this city, then we need to get serious about kicking those landlords out and kicking those tenants out, right? We need to start enforcing some of our absentee landlord ordinances. We need to get more aggressive on these on individuals that bring these crimes into our city, that bring these drugs in this city, right? Because you can put a banner up, but if you got someone who's ODing on opioids, I'm not going to see the beauty there. Right? I'm not focused on the banner, right? There's so much more we got to do as a city than, slapping some lipstick on it. So that's my position on that. The banners, it's not homecoming, right? This is a far bigger issue.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Mr. Jansen.
Could you repeat the question very quickly?
Of course. What will you do to keep New Bedford clean and welcoming to residents and tourists alike?
Well, first of all, we have to enforce our littering law. I mean, you go throughout our city in certain areas, not every area, but too many. Papers are all over the city. People just throw things out of their car. We have a law in the books, and it needs to be enforced. Now, bringing people here, that's going to be really tough, and I'll explain why. Many years ago, we had what was called Section 8 mobility certificates. And it brought a tremendous amount of undesirable people. It's an ugly thing to say, but it's the truth. It brought dysfunctional people here, bringing up dysfunctional children. It's ruined our school department, our school system. And we had a number of illegal immigrants, not as many as we had in the past decade, but they're still here, taking jobs away from the young kids that don't go on to college, that entry-level positions. It took the jobs away from these young people, so they developed a lousy self-image, and they turned to heroin because there was no jobs available for them. That makes our city an ugly city. So it's going to be tough. We need to give our residents, like Mr. Burrow said, we need to put more emphasis on absentee landlords, people who don't live at the properties that they rent these undesirables to. I don't know how they're going to do that. I hope our city council can address that issue. I think they've tried, but there are legal ramifications that put a roadblock up. But that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jansen. For those, I will repeat the question. The question is, what will you do to keep New Bedford clean and welcoming to residents and tourists alike? Mr. Gomes.
Thank you very much. Well, the first thing you do is educate, and I guess we can start in our grammar schools with our young people right now, because there's some people that don't care about the city of New Bedford. Let me tell you about Operation Clean Sweep that goes through the city, and I commend that organization. But I was out there with people like Ken Resendiz and others long time ago cleaning up the city of New Bedford, and this is what we got in return: picking up TVs, picking up syringes, picking up garbage. You go back to that neighborhood within 24 hours and the garbage is right back there, and there's nothing more heartbreaking than seeing all those good people that went into those neighborhoods to try to clean them up and tried to show people that a good neighborhood, clean and respectable, is a good place to live and work and raise your family. How do we make our city welcome? You just keep on selling the city. The city is not selling itself right now. We have so much to offer, but it's not been put together correctly. Let me just give you an instinct. This is the seafood capital of the world, correct, everyone? You look out there when there's all those boats and everything. When we leave here after this debate or this forum this evening, let's go into downtown and find a little window on the side, like we could find maybe in Newport or Providence, and get a fried clam box, or a scallop box, or maybe some fish nuggets. Can we do that? No, we can't. Because again, the plan of action in bringing the city to the forefront has not been put forth. This city can be a great city, and it is a great city. It can be greater than what it is. Clean up our highway exits that come into the city, as we've addressed on many occasions. Keep the city clean. Get some stores and businesses in downtown. They talk about downtown driving. The only place that's driving downtown is when you want to have a beer. That's the only thing that's driving. There is nothing else driving. Is there anywhere you can get a shirt or a dress or a blouse after 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the city of New Bedford? Any other city we can go to. We've got vacant buildings up on Union Street. We've got vacant buildings in other places. It's been talked about for decades and decades with nothing being done. I'll take care of it.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Ms. Moran.
No, I was just wondering, I heard somebody chuckle and I wanted their help on that issue.
So how about what we've done? How about the fact that we've increased funding for street sweeping in the city of New Bedford? How about the fact that we've passed a absentee landlord ordinance in the city of New Bedford? How about the fact that we continue to put tourism money forward so that we can promote the city of New Bedford and have festivals and events that come to the city of New Bedford? How about the fact that we have funded AHA Night, which is education of children and enjoying the arts within our community? How about that we're at every event that is in the city, promoting the city of New Bedford, attempting to talk to people in the city of New Bedford and making sure we understand what the issues are. This is all stuff that the city council has done. But the city council's job per the charter is to set the budget and to pass the ordinances in the city of New Bedford. We do a heck of a lot more than that. I'm not sure we get a lot of credit for the other things that we do, but we try our best to make sure that we're involved in the community and we're engaged in what needs to be done in the city of New Bedford. In addition to that, we've promoted the city as best we can, but there are roadblocks in front of us with people in the wrong positions. There are people in the city of New Bedford that aren't doing the job that they should be doing to promote the city, to make the city beautiful, to make the city come forward. There's a limited amount that we can do to make those changes in this role. That's an administrative role. But I will tell you that over my term, I have oftentimes voted no to initiatives and or to appointments that I knew were not for the benefit of the residents of the city of New Bedford. I will continue to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Moran. Ms. Carney?
Question again?
What will you do to keep New Bedford clean and welcoming to residents and tourists alike?
Okay, what will we do? Well, what we have done, like Councilor Moran said. We've worked very hard. I know that I've been involved in Operation Clean Sweep, and I urge everybody in their community that you need to get out there and do that. You've got paper in front of your street, pick it up. You've got trash in your sidewalks, pick it up, throw it in the garbage. It takes an effort from everybody in the community to keep it clean. We do have a beautiful city here. I mean, our tourism is picked up. We have the beautiful things on the waterfront, the concerts that go on. We do bring people in New Bedford. You know, but we as New Bedford people need to get together as New Bedford people to make our city clean. We need to take pride in our city. We do have the street sweepers out there, and they're posted to go into the neighborhoods. These streets are being cleaned up. We are taking all the initiatives out there to make this a better place. The problem property ordinance that we passed, this council passed, let me tell you, that task force is on the ball. You pick up the phone, you call them. I've dealt with them on several occasions, with the problem landlords, with some of the abandoned properties, with the overgrown grass, with the trash, with the couches in their driveways. They are on the ball and they pick it up. They work very closely with the city council. It doesn't take 2 minutes. You call, they get an answer, and they act on it. So we are looking to clean up the city. We are passing ordinances here to make sure that our city is clean and it's beautified and it's taken care of. So we are doing that as a body. We have done as a body, and we will continue. And I'll continue to work with my colleagues to make sure that this city is one that we are proud of, that we love, and that we have a stake into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carney. Mr. Abram.
So again, it's not just civic pride. All of us having a pride in New Bedford, all of us having a pride in this community and working together to make our city what it can be and make it better than what it already is. And we want to continue to grow up that momentum. You talk about absentee property owners and neglectful property owners. Well, I'm happy to say that. Councilor Carney mentioned it. Me as well. I've worked with the housing department, the task force, and working with them, we've been responsible for over 2 dozen corrective property orders or fines to neglectful property owners. That's holding them accountable. That's using the tools that we have in the ordinance that was passed before I got on, but using those tools to hold those neglectful property owners accountable. Look, again, you talk about civic pride, it has to start in the schools. Over the years, we've seen a decrease in civics classes in the schools. We've seen a decrease in a lot of history curriculum in the schools. We've seen that, and it's been unfortunate. And what happens is because when you're coming up through the ranks in the school department, and as we've all become young adults, you don't really understand what New Bedford is about. You don't understand our rich history or really have that civic pride. I myself, when I was in high school, didn't have it until I left for college and came back and learned more about our history. I gained my civic pride when I worked in college at the Siemens Bethel on weekends, offering tours. That's where I learned about our culture and our diversity. Get involved in the community, get involved in the local nonprofits who really do the good work of the community, like the E4All program, where it's creating jobs, it's creating small business startups for budding entrepreneurs, or the I Love the Ave initiative on Acushnet Avenue that beautifies Acushnet Avenue. They're rolling up their sleeves, they're getting down and dirty, they're painting chipped buildings, they're picking up weeds out of the ground, they're picking up litter and garbage. Those are the kinds of initiatives, as well as Operation Clean Sweep, and I've been a long-time volunteer there as well. Those are the kinds of programs and initiatives we need to continue to foster, we need to continue to promote amongst all of us. And that is where we can work together collectively in getting our civic pride back to where it should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abram. Next question comes from Laura.
My question is to Mr. Borrell. There's a perception that homelessness is increasing in New Bedford. What can you do as a member of the City Council to address this issue?
It's a good question. It's one that's on the minds of a lot of individuals on Facebook forums, and we certainly, it seems like we're seeing this, right? You talk to property owners, you talk to business owners, you've got homeless individuals that are sleeping out in parking lots, they're harassing individuals for money, they're lawyering, they're panhandling. I actually really thought that Charlie Perry was onto something, right? You know, as a city, we are bound by the Constitution. We can't necessarily stop someone from panhandling, for instance. But what we can do is we can enforce our codes and our ordinances, right? So the moment they step off the curb, right, let's book them, let's arrest them, let's say, hey, you know, this is a public safety issue. The other day, I was driving down a fairly busy road, and I was surprised that there was not just on the shoulder, but actually coming out in between the dotted lines. Right? So this is becoming a public safety issue. As far as dealing specifically with the homeless individuals, right? I think it's important that New Bedford remain a caring and an open society. I think that's one of our great strengths, one of our great values, right? We should look at the possibility, look at the feasibility of working with religious groups, nonprofits, expanding homeless shelters. I think that we should look at how can we expand soup kitchens. What can we do at this level to provide them the foot up? What can our leaders do to advocate for policies at the state and federal level that's going to help them? Right? I think there's a lot that we can do, whether we're elected or not. Right? This is not going to be something that's going to be solved here in New Bedford, but it's something that can really have a big push here in New Bedford. We can be on our state legislators. We can be on the governor. We can be on our representatives in Congress and saying we need this help. At the local level, we can take any number of those steps that I've just outlined. We just have to think a little more creatively. We just have to sit there and say, what resources do we have available in this city, and go get them.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Mr. Jansen.
We have plenty of homeless shelters here in New Bedford. The problem is that they don't want to go in at 8 o'clock at night. That's a big issue. They want to stay out all night long because they don't want to go in at that hour. And so something should be done to encourage them in these shelters to get in there at that time. Whether they don't feed them until that time, but get them there and so they'll eat and stay there. That's a big issue. They don't want to go to the shelter at 8 o'clock at night. Those are the hours that our shelters are open till. Now, the issue of homelessness, it's a cause and effect relationship, and we see the effect, but the cause is no jobs for these people. I said before, we don't have any jobs for them because of illegal immigration that we were silent on for over a decade. Over a decade, nobody would say anything about it. They were afraid it wasn't politically correct. Well, I did, and I got booed because I mentioned the problem with illegal immigration. That has taken the jobs away from these young people. They develop what I call SSI, shitty self-image, use my language, but that's what they develop. They don't like themselves. And so they turn to heroin, and if they don't turn to heroin, they turn to drinking. That's the issue. How do you solve it? It's really another tough thing to go. Stop hiring illegal immigrants. You can thank our greedy employers for that.
Thank you, Mr. Jansen. Mr. Gomes.
Could you repeat that question, please?
The question is, there's a perception that homelessness is increasing in New Bedford, and what can you do as a member of the City Council to address this?
Well, as long as I've been on the council, there's been an issue with the homeless, and we continue to support every agency, state and federal money come into the city in order to address this issue. Some people choose to be homeless. Some people choose to be on the street, and that is factors of drugs, mental health that put them there. There are options in this city, just like anywhere else. There are places to go, and you can go there. Some people have chosen not to. I've been in some campsites across the city that no one's been in, and you wouldn't believe what is there. It's a little city in itself. It's a little city in itself, and it's very interesting how these people live, how they build these huts in these places where they can stay, but it's not right. But that's what they have chosen to do. We all make choices in life, and some people make choices to be on the street. The open doors are there. It's up to them whether they take it. And when them doors open, there are rules and regulations that go with them open doors. And you either have to follow them until you get your feet on the ground, until you move on. But as far as the homeless and whatever, I think the city does a job that is, as I said, federally funded, state funded. There's monies that come in, plus whatever the city contributes, plus the private agencies across the city that are there to support them, people of homelessness, and they'll continue to do that. It's just something that is out of control, and I blame a lot of it on people that have a drug addiction and mental issues. And we have tried. We had one gentleman very quickly downtown that we tried to get away from the bus terminal, only to pass away right outside those windows because he chose that's where he wanted to be. He didn't want to be anywhere else. That's where he wanted to be.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Ms. Moran.
So I'm going to continue along with Councilor Gomes's theme. As a city councilor, I'm not sure that there's much more that I can do other than making sure that I'm supporting the agencies within our city that are working to help the homeless people. There are people in the city of New Bedford that are going to be homeless no matter what. We've opened doors to them, we provide programs to them. They're not interested in that. They want to live their life the way they live their life. But I stand on a regular basis to do my best to support the city's budget piece that helps the people who are in need of a meal. I work with the Salvation Army, work with some of the other nonprofit agencies in the city that are in the community trying their best to help the people that are homeless in the city of Bedford. We've had a situation in the North End for years with a gentleman who we continue to try to assist. He's not interested in that assistance. There's not much more you're going to be able to do other than to continue to provide the service, make sure that there are no laws being broken, support the agencies that are trying to reach out to these people, to give them a meal, to make sure that they have medication, to make sure that they have clean feet, a place to sleep when the temperature drops, etc. I'll continue to support that however I can, but I'm not sure that I'm going to solve homelessness in the city of New Bedford or in the country. And that's an honest answer.
Thank you, Ms. Moran. Laura, can you repeat the question before Councilor Ms. Carney goes?
There's a perception that homelessness is increasing in New Bedford. What can you do as a member of the City Council to address this?
Ms. Carney.
Well, so what we can do, as Councilor Morris said, is advocate for the agencies that are out there. Right now, for people listening on the radio, there's a big campaign going for Rise Up for Homes. Rise Up for Homes collects money to just do that, to address the homelessness in New Bedford. Also, many of our councils, we had the opportunity to sleep out at Normanton for the homelessness. And at that forum that they had, and we slept overnight in cardboard boxes, it was cold. And I can tell you, unless you have a severe problem, you can't find something, you will look for someplace to go. And at that forum, there were many agencies that are there that do go out there and look. We do, the city, the state, does a count every year of homelessness. So they go out and count everybody that's there. So it has been addressed on the state, the city level. We are looking in there, but all we can do is support. Go into these areas to make sure that they know that there's resources. But there's a lot of mental illness out there. There's a lot of opiate out there that they do not want to go into these homes. They like their encampments. They've been broken up. The city's very good about it. When they are identified, they go in and clean them up. And they do find a lot of needles. You've seen it, I don't know if you've looked at some of the Facebooks and the other social medias that go there, and they show you the view of what's out there. So a lot of this homelessness is a problem. They have health issues, mental issues. So those are things we need to address in our community. But we are trying, and we work very hard to make sure that we do pass the word and say, support your local agencies because they're the ones who are taking care of our homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carney. Mr. Abram.
Well, clearly nobody grows up in life wanting to be homeless, out onto the streets, begging for food, begging for money. That's very clear. I don't think anyone grows up wanting to do that, having a need for drugs or wanting to be homeless. Clearly there, in many cases, could be a mental disability that's involved in that situation. We need to have empathy for those people, and we need to support those people who want help. However, sometimes I think in the goodness of our hearts, when we help people, we enable them. We don't want to enable. We want to help, reintegrate, give them the tools that they need to be able to function in society, whether it's job training, whether it's mental health clinical services, whether it's getting them a nice bed or a nice warm sheet or a nice hot shower to feel a sense of pride in their life, to want to go out and maybe shave or dress up a little bit or comb their hair, to want to maybe walk into a local establishment and want to apply for a job. Those are the kinds of environments that we can try to grow and foster together as a community. It's been said before, there's no real silver bullet that anyone on the city council or the mayor or anyone, even at the federal level, no one has figured out or has been able to crack the code on how to end or completely abate homelessness. But what we can do is to continue to advocate for their well-being in conjunction with assisting with the Sister Rose program, assisting with Mercy Meals and More, assisting with the United Way, assisting with the Salvation Army, and the list goes on, but these are great organizations that really truly do God's work. We want to continue to work with them to show these individuals that there is a hope. We're here to support you, and we're here to help you, but you're going to have to want the help as well. And that's the key. We're here to help, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to want to help yourself as well. New Bedford is here. We have the tools to help, but again, it has to be a two-way partnership.
Thank you, Mr. Abram. Ms. Coelho.
Thank you. This week I was there's a program that went on this week which was called Coffee with a Cop. You can call your local police station and they'd hook you up with an officer, and you go have coffee and they take an hour off to talk to you. And one of the things that came up was the homelessness and the panhandling. And wouldn't you know that some of the panhandlers come from out of the city. One particular couple comes from Fall River, and they get dropped off here, and they do their panhandling all day long, and then go back home with $200 or $300 in their pocket. One of the ways to curb back panhandling is basically not to give these people money. I was one of the first ones to come up and bring that issue on the council. I took a lot of heat for it. People got offended by it, but people don't live in New Bedford, so they don't know. They think they're doing, people have a tendency to do self-gratification really quick. When they give $1 to somebody, they feel better about themselves because they think they did good. But that's not good enough. If you want to do good, please, there's all these food pantries throughout various churches throughout the city that you can go volunteer and help feed and collect clothes or whatever it is that they need. These organizations exist. The problem is our problem. We all have to volunteer in some way to give back to the community, to those in need. I will just say one last thing. A decade ago, our state legislators took away the mental health institutions. A lot of these people have mental health issues, drug issues, and so all of those issues keeps them on the street. They don't have the capacity to follow the rules, and we don't have enough resources to force them to follow the rules, which they did. So it's a new line of thinking, but again, I urge each and every one of you to literally feed the hungry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. The next question comes from Anna.
My question goes to Mr. Jansen. How would you work with the mayor to prioritize the budget?
All right, that's a great question, because that's what, the mayor's having a tough time working with this council. So that's a great question. One of the big issues I have, the mayor put a perfectly good proposal in front of the city council, and they voted it down 10-0. That's our redesign of our health care plan here in New Bedford. Chapter 32B of the Mass General Law, Section 21, allows for the renegotiation of our health care plan, which is the #2 driver to the city budget increases. Now, he put this proposal in front of them. They got a lot of calls from our union representatives, I guess, because they didn't even send it to committee. Didn't even send it to committee to discuss it, which they should have. No, they just were afraid that the unions were going to do what was done to Fred Kalis, I guess. So they voted it down 10-0.
I'd like to remind you to please watch your words with the people that are here, and please stay away from attacking others. Thank you. Please reset the clock.
Who am I attacking? The city council? They voted down a perfectly good proposal, 10-0, that the mayor put in front of them on the health care redesign. Is that attacking anybody?
Please stick to the question. Thank you.
Well, that's the question. This city council does not work with the mayor. They're at odds. Okay, I said enough.
Mr. Jansen. Mr. Gomes.
Look, I'll work with any mayor that wants to work on behalf of the people of the city. And the budget is one of the major parts of government that we have to deal with when it comes to the budget. I work with any mayor, but let me say this. When you throw something on my table 48 hours before and you want to vote on it, I don't play that. I want the whole story. And I don't care who you sit down in front of me and give me your story. I want to make sure that whatever move I'm going to make in that budget or whatever savings I'm going to bring to this city is going to be in affirmative of the taxpayer, and it's also going to be good for the city workers. So that's to clear that air about how at least this councilor voted on that 10-0 that evening. You just don't give me something within 48 hours and expect me to react to it just on hearsay. I'm going to study it, I'm going to look into it, and as I said, I'm going to make sure it's beneficial. Budget is one of the biggest things that we have to deal with. The budget is given us, we know, what we're given. You know, I'm driving around the city right now and I'm questioning some projects that I'm seeing because I'm seeing a lot of dig-ups in this city. I knew that we received some money for Union Street, but I didn't know we received some monies for some other places where I see a lot of work being done, and this money has to come from somewhere. And it's very interesting that during the course of the year, the money that will transfer from one department out of another department into another department tells me that everything is not rosy as people think it is. And the only way that you get to know that is being the mayor of the city, and we can grill every department head, but it's all what we're told. It's what we're told, or what we at least see if a paper is given to us, a memo is given to us on what goes on with the monies. I'll continue to work with any mayor if he wants to work with me. He doesn't want to work with me, then he's not working on behalf of the people of the city.
Thank you, Mr. Gomes. Ms. Morad.
So, a year or so ago, I had the honor of being elected council president by my colleagues. And as part of one of my initiatives for that year, I asked the administration to have the council involved in the setting of the budget, not the review of the budget. Because what's happened in the city of New Bedford for the last million years is that the administration decides how money's going to get spent. And then the budget's sent to the city council for the city council to cut things that they don't want done. It shouldn't work that way. Government should work together. As I said previously, if you prioritize what the goals are in the city of New Bedford and you work together to fund those goals, government works much better. And I'll continue to stand on that issue. The second issue that needs to change as it relates to the budget is that when the city council does adopt its budget in June, it's made recommendations to cut the budget in specific areas. Those monies, that's the council's recommendation. Those of you that follow government know that months after the budget has been cut, the administration decides that they've still spent that money, whether it's this administration or another, and they come back to the council and ask the council to fund what the council said in June it wanted to cut. If the council was strong together, the message would be sent that we are not going to do that. We indicated in June what our priorities were for spending, and the administration needs to live within the budget. That continues to happen, and if that continues to happen, there's never going to be a point where you have control in spending. And control in spending is what affects the tax rate. That's where, as I said before, that's where the tax rate is set. It's set the night the budget is passed. And councilors on the council need to recall that going forward. And at another point, I'll address why my vote was no to the item that was submitted to the council as it relates to the healthcare program.
Thank you, Ms. Morad. Anna, can you repeat the question before Ms. Carney goes?
How would you work with the mayor to prioritize the budget?
Well, most of us councilors do work with the mayor, or we're out there trying to work with the mayor. We are available all the time. When we get to these meetings, we do have these little subcommittee meetings that we go and we sit with the mayor. But that budget is already set. It's usually he puts forward what his initiatives are. So we get to say, okay, we like this or we like that, or we don't like this or we don't like that. When push comes to shove, when it comes down in front of us, it's the mayor's budget. The budget is tight. We did many cuts. We cut where we could, but it is a very tight budget. And yes, the rising cost of health care, and I'm going to address that. And like my council Gomes said, we got that put in front of us. They gave us the negotiating for us to pass a bill that allows the mayor and a couple other people to negotiate health care. What I said, and I said to our CFO, go negotiate and bring us back a plan. Bring us back something that we can look, something concrete that we can look and approve. And we need to talk to everybody. You can't come before me and say that you're going to do this right away. I can't vote like that. I talked to a couple of people, but I didn't get a barrage of calls telling me not to. That was my decision, not to go that way, because I don't think it was fair to me to vote on something that I had no idea what was going on. Show me the plan. Let me know it's going to impact the 2,000 plus people that are on this plan, and then I can do something about it. But our budget is tight. We're on top of it. We've made many cuts, but unfortunately, the budget is the mayor's budget. We cut it, but it still goes on, and it gets transferred later. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carney. Mr. Abram.
So again, as Ed mentioned earlier, this is my first term that I'm winding down, so I've only had the pleasure to serve on this council with Mayor Mitchell and the administration and his team. So there are times where he and I have disagreed and locked horns. There are times where he and I have agreed, and I've agreed with his position. That's okay. That can happen in government. But what's important is that, and I think we see this a lot at the federal level, the Congress draws their line in the sand, the president draws their line, and no one crosses it. The good thing is that I have an open mind, and I try to be pragmatic and listen to every side of the story and try to see the other perspective and the other side of an issue so we can work together for the betterment of the city. But the mayor and I aren't always going to agree on everything. That's inevitable. That's just going to happen. But the dialogue needs to continue. That's what's the utmost importance. In regard to the health insurance vote, I just wanted to make a quick statement about that. It's been said before, the information was dropped right in front of us very quickly. We had a very quick summation, but in my personal opinion, I felt that trying to cut a few bucks and balance our budget on the backs of the men and women who are our law and safety professionals here in the city of New Bedford was just questionable public policy. That was my opinion, and that's why I voted no. We all understand that there's a problem with health insurance costs in the city, and it's a state and federal issue. We get it. It's spiraling out of control. But these unions have what they call the PEC committees, PEC committees, and their jobs and their roles are to assess health insurance costs. I would like to have seen them engaged in this process with the CFO's office, the administration, with us, to figure out a plan that can work for everybody. You know, if you're just going to throw a piece of paper in front of someone and say, take it or leave it, and put a gun to their head, then the answer is going to be, well, I'm going to leave it. That's not the way you operate government. You want to be transparent, you want to be open, and you want to listen to every side at that table.
Thank you, Ms. Abram. Ms. Guelph.
Can I have the question repeated, please?
How would you work with the mayor to prioritize the budget?
Okay, so as we all know, the mayor is the one who puts the budget together, and then once that takes months, so that's quite a process, and once it's done, it comes before the council for approval or for cuts. Just so everybody will understand, a lot of what is placed in the budget is state mandates. So it is a big priority that has to meet the state standards. You can't cut it. So the past several years, this mayor has actually been very good about giving us a very lean budget. There isn't much we can cut by the time it comes to us. And when we do try to cut, as for example, one of the items that was cut was the snow plowing item. And the council tried to cut. I actually didn't vote for it, but we tried to cut. What happened in the winter when all the snow came down? We had to move the money back. And that happens a lot of times. We try to cut, and then by state law, we can't, and so we end up putting it back. The other item I want to address also is the health care plan. I believe that every citizen, everybody in the city of New Bedford, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or in America should have the best care plan, the best health plan that we can actually offer. The idea is not to take out. The idea is to give everybody what they need. It's a basic right. So when you're telling me to take this health care plan away, It's like taking a cut from those that are making the least in the city of New Bedford. It was going to affect a lot of families, and I just couldn't do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Mr. Morrow.
So, first I want to talk about Section 21, because that's been something that we've all talked about. This has been something that, as a public school teacher, as a former public school teacher, this is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. And as someone who supports our fire, our police, our first responders, I have two brothers that are cops. One works for the FBI, one works for the Sheriff's Deputy out in Denver. The health insurance that they get, they negotiate that. And the contracts, in fact, we just renegotiated a contract with the fire union. And I think it's interesting, the mayor, he's kind of touting this right as we're going into a re-election. And then as soon as this election's over, he's going to ask this city council to bring in the arbitrators and cut the pay, cut the benefits of our first responders, of our public employees, and that's a no, right? Like, let's negotiate that then, right? You're telling me that you can't negotiate the package you want. I don't believe that the 75% that the city of New Bedford is covering its public employees is at all out of whack with what we're seeing nationally. 2 years ago, a group called Kaiser Permanente, they're one of the largest health providers and health insurers in the country. They got together, tens of thousands of individuals. They wanted to see what was the average employee contribution to their employer's health insurance. It was 73%. Now, when you consider that our police, especially here in New Bedford, are dealing with gang wars, violence, they're dealing with opioids, drug abuses, our firefighters are going into a burning building, it seems like every night now. You're telling me that we're going to cut their health benefits? Absolutely not. Now, as far as the budget goes, I will work with any mayor that understands that they are more than the mayor of Union Street. That when we do public works, it needs to be in the communities that people live in. It needs to be in working class communities. And you can't just start working on County Street when you get an election scare. That's got to be priority one.
Time.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. The final question of this section of the forum will come from Laura.
Mr. Gomes, you have 1 minute for this one. Why should the voters of New Bedford elect you to the city council?
Why should the voters elect me? I'm hardworking, I'm committed, I'm dedicated, I love this city. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else but what I do. I came to politics after my family being involved in politics. And the reason I ran was because I seen someone who I worked so hard for do a complete 180 once they got elected. It was like they were there and we were all here. And I didn't like that. And that encouraged me to run because I wanted to show not only myself, my family, that representation is one that is given to all, and you take a city as a whole. Success comes to those who work together. I've tried to bring that concept to the city of New Bedford. I'll continue to do that. I'll continue to address every issue that comes before me. I have not hidden behind any doors or stepped out in front of that door later. I do what I do because I think it's the right thing to do, and I'll continue to do that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Ms. Moya.
I hope the residents of the city of New Bedford look at my record over the last 12 years. They realize that I stand for them, that I listen, that I'm accessible, and that I do the job to the best of my ability to represent them. I hope that the residents in the city of New Bedford give me an opportunity to continue the good work that I think I've done here in the city. They have continued to return me to the New Bedford City Council and have given me their vote of confidence, and I hope they will do that again. The job's not done. There's a lot more to do, and I would like to be part of the government body that's going to move the city forward, to make it a place where you want to live and raise your family.
Thank you, Ms. Morad. Ms. Carney?
Yes, thank you. I want to continue to work with the City Council. I am a very hard-working person. I'm dedicated, I'm accessible, and I'm out there in the city. I'm out there at the neighborhood meetings. I pride myself in going to my neighborhood meetings whenever I can, and that's a lot. I run the Ward 5 Butler Park Neighborhood Association, and we have a great association there. I want to be your grassroots, I'm your eyes and ears in your community. I want to hear your concerns. I act on your concerns. I'm accessible. You can pick up the phone and call me at any time. I will address those concerns right away, and I do. I look into the neighborhoods, and I think I'm fiscally responsible. I'm a taxpayer too, just like the people in this room. I have 2 children. I got 2 children in college. My children went to Voc. Great school. They're doing marvelous things. My son just passed the bar. I mean, New Bedford is a great place. You know, so I want to make sure that everybody in New Bedford has the opportunity that... Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carney. I'd like to remind you this is a minute. Laura, can you repeat the question once more?
Why should the voters of New Bedford elect you to the city council?
Mr. Brady.
So you're all my neighbors. Doesn't matter where you live, downtown, whether it's in the south end where I live, or in the north end or the west end. We're all in this together, and I think the 100,000 residents and constituents of our city know that, and they know that I'm here to be their voice and to work with them no matter who they are, what neighborhood they live in, or what their question or concern is, whether it's potholes, streetlights, whether it's economic development, crime, public safety, boarding up an absentee landlord house, holding absentee landlords accountable, being your voice in City Hall. That's why I ran for public office 2 years ago. That's why the residents of New Bedford, you gave me the honor and bestowed upon me one of the 5 elected seats as your counselor at large, and that's why I feel as though I would love to run again, which I am, and I would love to be reelected as one of your 5 counselors at large. I think I've done an all right job, but I want to continue to grow with the job. I want to continue to work with my colleagues, but more importantly, I want to continue to work with each and every one of you so we can all grow this city together and move our agenda collectively forward.
Thank you, Mr. Abram. Ms. Coelho.
Well, I want you to know I'm a very good sample and representative of the face of the city of New Bedford. I grew up here. I have a very understanding of struggling as a young adult. I had a small business for well over 20 years, so I understand the struggles of small business. And I'm the only one up here in this panel that actually lives in the inner hood. I am the hood counselor. I get it. I live every issue that happens. I'm the one that brings it to the forefront all the time. I'm the one that gets whacked for bringing it to the forefront. But I tell you and I describe to you how things are in the city of New Bedford, and I understand the community and all people and all members of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Mr. Morrow.
Well, I'm not from New Bedford. As I was saying in my introduction, I was born and raised in Idaho, and I've lived in a lot of cities, and I know that this isn't how a city's supposed to function deep down. Like, if you guys are fine with the way the city's going, if you guys think that everything's honky-dory, if you guys think, hey, you know what, they all deserve an in, vote every single incumbent back in. But if you feel that, hey, you know what, some of them just aren't showing up. Some of them I have a really difficult time getting a hold of. Why not take a chance? If I suck, fire me in 2 years, right? I mean, that's the great thing about elections. The need for change in the city is overwhelming. And it was present from the moment I got here. I saw it all throughout my years teaching in New Bedford High. I still see it now as a father on North Street. We need change in this city, and I'm asking you to make me one of your 5 votes. I promise you, you won't regret it.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Please hold the floor. Thank you. Mr. Jansen?
Yeah, we hear a lot of bad things about the young people here in New Bedford, but these young people here this evening, they're a credit to their family, they're a credit to our community, and I'd like to thank them for what they've done. Now, I'm a 52-year resident of this city. I've run for public office many times. And if you haven't voted for me in the past, my record shows that I've always told the truth. Whether it paints a pretty picture or not, you'll get the truth from me. Thank you, and God bless the residents of New Bedford.
Thank you, Mr. Jansen. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this candidate forum tonight, and more importantly, urge your friends, family, neighbors, and coworkers to go out and vote on November 7th. It's our right and our obligation. Thank you.